I am loving this so much. That was so intense and so disgusting. Hey, how's it going? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the very first Winterween vlog. Winterween is a week-long readathon that I love to host in the month of January. Every January I host Winterween, and then every July I host another readathon called Summerween. The main goal of these readathons is to bring the spooky vibes of Halloween into the other times of the year because I'm such a big fan of Halloween and spooky season, and I figured we could all use some more of that in our lives. If you missed the announcement for the readathon, I will have it linked down below. This is going to be the first of 3 Winterween vlogs that you're going to see from me. Today's vlog should include days 1 and 2. If you were wondering, for this readathon we do have 5 different reading prompts. This round of Winterween is one that I'm especially excited for because this round we have kind of like a bloodbath theme going on. It's kind of like a vampire theme. So some of the prompts are related to like reading books that are about vampires or like books with red on the cover. You don't have to hit all of the prompts in order to participate in the readathon, but I'm going to be trying to hit all 5 prompts. We also do have an Instagram for the readathon that is called @ThisIsSummerween, and over there you can see all of the 5 prompts, and we do have some Instagram daily photo challenges as well. We do have a bingo board over on the Instagram. Like, there's a lot of fun little extra things happening over there. But you might be asking yourself, what books are you planning to read for this readathon? I have so many plans for this readathon. I mean, obviously, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all of these books in the readathon, but these are the ones that are at the top of my priority list. One of the books I definitely want to try and get to this week is The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice. This one is actually the sequel to Interview with a Vampire, and I've heard from so many people that this book is even better than Interview with a Vampire. I actually got started on this book last night. I'm about 72 pages into this one because this one is nearly 500 pages. So I don't know if this is like the best thing for me to be reading during a readathon, but I figured now would be a good time to get into it. Another book that I'm definitely going to be reading this week is The Burial Tide by Neil Sharpson. This is the one that I'm going to be reading for like a book with red on the cover. This one is one of my most anticipated horror books after how much I loved Knock Knock Open Wide from this author. I do have an ARC copy of the new Colleen Hoover called Woman Down. This one is actually going to be publishing during Winterween on January 13th. This is one that I've just been so curious to read because it's been a long time since Colleen Hoover has published anything in the thriller genre. I'm also thinking I'm gonna read The Place Where They Buried Your Heart by Christina Henry. I really want to read this one for the prompt that was like, read a book that you never got around to in 2025 that you meant to. I do have this book available on audio from my library as well, so there's a higher chance that I could get to this one this week. Another option for that would be The Midnight Knock by John Fran, because this was another one that I meant to get around to in 2025 and I just never got around to reading it. And then 2 other books that I could also potentially use for that same prompt include Where He Left Me by Nicole Bart. This one's a thriller that just looks like it's going to be perfect and like wintry and very atmospheric. And then I also have the book Itch by Gemma Amor. This one is a new horror book that just looks so intriguing and looks like it would be the perfect thing to read. So those are all of my top priority books, like the ones that I'm trying to get to first. But I do think I can be such a mood reader during these readathons. So I do have a whole nother stack of books that like maybe I'll try to get into some of these. I think it's good for me to have some backup options because for some of these I do have access to the audiobook, which means I'm more likely to want to pick up some of these, but then also there's a lot of arcs that I still haven't gotten around to. So those are all of my potential options for this readathon. I'm so excited to get things started. So usually for these readathons, anytime that I host Summerween or Winterween, I love to make these music videos with my sister where she plays this ghost, and I will usually rewrite a Taylor Swift song. Like, I write all of the lyrics myself and I try to theme them around our readathons. I record the songs on GarageBand and then me and my sister shoot the music video ourselves. And I know that these music videos are so cringy and so silly stupid, but that's kind of the point. I don't know, it's something we've been doing now as a tradition during Winterween or Summerween for so many years now. Because I'm such a big Taylor Swift fan, I love getting to like rewrite some of the lyrics to fit the spooky vibes. And so without any further ado, let me present to you this year's Winterween music video.
I don't like the winter cold. This story's getting old. I miss the bright red leaves, now they're brown and on the ground. I just want to feel afraid. Read something that has fangs. You said Halloween is gone. Move on, but that feels so wrong. But I'll read horror in the freezing months in wintertime. It's like I rose up from the dead, I do it all the time. I've got a list of books and I'll be reading over time. Not Halloween, but now's the time. Oh, for now it's Winterween. For now it's Winterween. Read horror for the week, they said they just don't get me. Oh, for now it's Winterween. Horror makes me feel seen. We'll wait for Halloween, but for right now it's winter. I'll still read the horror and I'll try not to scream. I'll give it 5 stars when it gives me bad dreams. I'll still read the horror when the snow starts to freeze. I'll give it 5 stars when it gives me bad dreams. I'll still read the horror and the horror loves me. I'll give it 5 stars when it gives me bad dreams. I'll still read the horror every day of the week. I'll give it 5 stars when it gives me bad dreams. For now it's Winterween, for now it's Winterween. Read horror for the week, they said they just don't get me. Oh, for now it's Winterween. Blood fangs and all the teeth. We'll wait for Halloween, but for right now it's winter. Oh, for now it's Winterween, for now it's Winterween. Read horror for the week, they said they just don't get me. Oh, for now it's Winterween. Horror makes me feel seen. We'll wait for Halloween, but for right now it's Winterween.
Alright, so that was this year's Winterween music video. I know, it might be the cringiest one that we've made so far, but I love it. I feel like if there's one thing about me, I'm a millennial, and I feel like if there's one thing that millennials do well, it's that we embrace the cringe. Like you have to remember, like I was going to high school back in like 2010, and I feel like it was a lot more normal to see stuff like this on the internet in that time. I know the music videos are cheesy and cringy, but I have so much fun making them, and I'm just trying to bring a little bit of joy to the internet, so I hope that you enjoyed it. And let's get started with day 1 of Winterween.
All I'm keeping track of is the weather, and there's no wind, no sun, nothing. 80 days I'm not feeling better, but a sweet relief is finding me. There's no love under the portrait. Ain't got no loyalties, no one to please. I just got that glue.
Hello and happy day 1 of Winterween. At this point, it's nearly 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've been doing some reading sprints today with my friends Gavin and Jan. If you missed the reading sprints, by the way, I will have them linked down below. Oh my gosh, me and Jan have been like laughing our asses off because my friend Gavin was on the sprints, but he had to step away because he was watching a new episode of The Traitors, so he didn't come back for the end of the sprint in time. And so me and Jan ended up changing our names on this sprint to like cringy nicknames that he's probably gonna hate. And we're just like waiting for him to come back and like notice that we changed the names. Oh my god, we've been like laughing so hard. But anyway, I wanted to let you know that I have started reading The Burial Tide. I was going to start on the vampire Lestat today, but I decided to put this one on pause for now because it's not immediately pulling me in, and I just really wanted to read something today that's really gonna like hold my attention. So I decided to read The Burial Tide instead, and I'm now 86 pages into this one. This book is actually kind of strange so far. We were debating earlier if this animal on the cover is like a werewolf or if it's like a sea lion, and I think it actually is a seal because they have talked about seals at this point in the book. So the premise for this book is kind of strange because it says a woman who can't remember her death. We're following this woman named Mara, and she wakes up in this grave. She's basically been buried alive recently, and she has no memories of what happened to her. The story is taking place off the coast of Ireland on this really small island, and we are following a huge cast of characters in this book. I've already listed down over 10 names that have been mentioned in my phone, and it has been a little bit confusing because a lot of these characters have very, like Irish names. I mean, thankfully I am listening to the audiobook, so I'm getting the pronunciations for each one of their names, but I am a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of characters that I'm trying to keep track of already. I mean, the premise of this book just says that it's an island with a terrible secret. It says where strange figures watch from the trees and the roads are covered in teeth. It says where 2 brothers gamble for nothing, the doctor only treats 1 patient, the pub owner speaks in riddles, where a poet loses and finds his soul, a man without a heart claims he's the key to unlocking her secrets. It is a little bit confusing, but I am liking the atmosphere in this book so far. There was a moment right at the start of this book that I thought was kind of creepy where we're following this guy Declan, and he goes to like pick up the phone and he hears like an announcement message come over the phone that says there has been an outbreak on the island. Several people are dead. Please remain indoors. Do not make contact with anyone. Supplies will be provided. And so we know about this like potential outbreak that's happened on the island, but like the weird thing is that this girl Mara, like she has no memory of this outbreak, and she doesn't think she was ever sick to begin with, so it was like, why was she put in a coffin in the first place? I don't know, I feel like this book is doing a really great job setting up this mystery about like what could have happened to this girl Mara and like why was she buried alive? So I'm definitely gonna try to finish up this book today. I don't know if I'm as immediately obsessed with this book the way that I was with Knock Knock Open Wide, but I am engaged enough in the story and the mystery at this point to continue and see what happens. I'm currently starting on the second reading sprint right now with Gavin and Jan, and we should be live for like a few hours today, so hopefully that'll give me enough time to finish this one. is now after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I wanted to check in with a quick update because I've still been reading The Burial Tide. I just went on a walk because it's actually not too cold out today. It's almost 50 degrees outside, which is crazy. I really thought it was going to snow this week, but now I'm feeling like it's not going to get cold enough to snow. And anyway, I'm doing my final reading sprint right now with Gavin and Jan, and so I thought I would update you because I'm now about like 228 pages into this book. I feel like things are really getting wild in this. Oh my gosh, there was a scene that I read in chapter 22 where I was like, the body horror, that was so intense and so disgusting. Oh my god, like I will never get that visual out of my head ever. And I thought I would update you right now because I just finished reading I think it was chapter 35, and that one also had some of the most like insane horror. I was so terrified. You know, I don't know a lot about like Irish mythology or like Irish folklore and like that kind of horror, and I feel like that's part of the reason why I love to read this author's books so much, because I feel like this author clearly knows a lot about Irish mythology, and some of the things in this book just have me so freaked out. I can't remember if I mentioned in the last update too, but there are seals in this book, and I feel like it's so uncommon to read about like seals in horror. Like I feel like that's a very unique thing, and I can't say I've ever read it before. So I'm having a lot more fun with this than I was at the beginning. Like this feels like something that maybe I'll give it like 4 stars. I'm liking the mystery about this woman and like what happened to her and like what's really going on with this island. It's all very strange. I don't know if I'm like following it 100% to be honest. Like I do think some parts of this are a little bit confusing, or like I'm a little bit lost because there are so many characters still, but I am liking the overall vibes a lot better, and the horror is really working for me in this. Like it's truly unsettling. So I'm planning to finish up the rest of the book, and I will check in with you when I have another update. Okay, hello. It is nearly 8:30 in the night, and I have a few different updates for you. I mean, one thing I wanted to say is that sprints today with Gavin and Jan were so much fun. I don't think I've laughed that hard in a long time. And like seeing Gavin's reaction to the nicknames, like it was just everything. We had so much fun. And then after that, I ended up going to the taco truck with my dad, and I got these quesabirria tacos. Dude, those are so good. It was my second time ever ordering them, and like they were just phenomenal. And then after that, me and my mom ended up watching 2 episodes of Supernatural. If you were wondering, we are watching it for the very first time ever, and we're on season 3 already. Like this show is so insanely addicting. I can't stop watching it. And I know that it's like starting to take over my life when like even when I'm not watching the show, I'm thinking about the show. And we only have a few episodes left of season 3 at this point, because season 3 is actually the shortest one. I think it's only 16 episodes. But anyway, I have another update that I finished reading The Burial Tide. I am kind of bummed that I think the second half of this book ended up feeling just okay for me. But damn, if there's one thing that I could say about this author, it's that he knows how to write a good horror book, because the horror in this book was crazy and so disturbing and so unsettling, and it was also just very unique. I feel like that's definitely one of the highest compliments that I could give this author, is that both of the horror books that I've read from him are so incredibly unique and very different from anything that I've ever read. And there was so much about this that I did love, but I think for me, the ultimate reason why I'm probably going to end up giving this one around like 3 stars or maybe like 3.5 stars is mostly because of the pacing. You know, at the start of this book, like I mentioned, it was very slow paced and kind of like hard to get into, but then once the horror elements of this book really start picking up, I was really enjoying it a lot more. Then I do feel like on and off while I was reading, my interest would like fade in and out because some parts of this book just felt really slow. I mean, in the second half especially, like there were some really good reveals happening in the second half, and like some things that I didn't see coming that I thought were really cool, but I still think overall the pacing just kind of really dragged for me in parts of this book. And I also think part of my issue with this is that I think the cast of characters is just too big. I do think this book could have been a lot stronger if we had just been following Mara's perspective as like a main character, because I do think that she was the most interesting perspective to follow. You know, like she's one of the only ones on this island who has absolutely no idea what's going on, and she has no memories, which makes for a really interesting main character. I feel like a lot of this story just got bogged down by a lot of perspectives that just didn't feel necessary, and because there's such a huge cast of characters, I feel like I really struggled to connect to any of them. I just never felt like I got enough time with these characters to really root for them. But Neil Sharpson is an author that I'm definitely going to be reading more from in the future, just because I love his style. I love the way that he writes his horror. It's so like subtle and weird and disturbing in a way that I just don't find often in a lot of horror books. Like his writing really does work for me. I just think this particular story and this cast of characters didn't intrigue me as much as his other book, but his writing really is good. I don't know if I'm gonna read anything more before bed. Like I might try to do some like reading in the dark, maybe on my Kindle tonight. I'm not too sure. All I really want to do is take my ponytails out and take a shower and make some tea. I might get a sweet little treat from the kitchen. Oh, and one other major thing that I forgot to update you on is that earlier today, my sister got a phone call from the hospital, and apparently there was some kind of like issue with her insurance, and they had to reschedule her surgery. I talked about this on my like January TBR video, how I was like really worried because during Winterween, my sister was gonna have to get this surgery, you know, like on her kidney, and the surgery was supposed to be happening on the 13th, but I don't know, there was something that happened with the insurance where like they're not gonna be able to get it figured out in time before the 13th, so they're trying to reschedule it now to February, which obviously, you know, like that sucks for my sister because she really wanted to like get this surgery done with and start feeling better because she's been having so many issues with her kidney recently. But it is also a little bit of a stress relief to know that we're not going to have to deal with the surgery right away. I don't know, it feels very bittersweet, and I just really hope that they can get this figured out for her and that she can have her surgery rescheduled soon. Anyway, I will see you first thing in the morning. I do have some more Patreon reading sprints happening in the morning, so I will see you then. Good morning and happy day 2 of Winterween. It's about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and this morning has been a really great morning so far. I ended up making breakfast here at the house. I've been loving those protein pancakes from Trader Joe's. You just heat them up in the microwave and they're ready to go. I've also been doing reading sprints on my Patreon this morning. I was able to premiere the music video early for my Patreon today, and it was so much fun. And I have started reading The Place Where They Buried Your Heart by Christina Henry, and I just hit chapter 5. I'm about 68 pages into this book already. I am loving this so much. I mean, I don't want to jinx it because I'm still pretty early on in the book, but like this feels like it could be a 5-star for me. I am absolutely loving this. I was a little bit nervous to read this one because I feel like Christina Henry has been an author that's a little bit hit or miss for me in the past. I mean, she's definitely had 5-star books for me in the past, like Near the Bone. Then I've also DNF'd a lot of her recent stuff, and I just haven't found any new favorites from this author in the last couple of years. But this book is so right up my alley with like what I'm in the mood for right now. Something that I am loving about this book is that it's taking place in 1993. We're actually following from the perspective of this 13-year-old girl named Jessie. Dude, listen to this opening sentence. Like, are you kidding me? The opening line of this book says, "I was at home grounded for stealing cigarettes from Johnny's corner store on the day my baby brother Paul was eaten by the house at the end of the street. It says Paul was 8 and I was 13. I wasn't there when it happened, but it was my fault anyway." Like, what do you mean he was eaten by the house at the end of the street? Like, what are we even talking about? She says, "I should probably say that nobody died because of the thing in the house, because somebody had died there, that's for sure." And so we're following this character, Jessie, as she's trying to figure out like what's going on in this house that's at the end of the street. All she knows is that her little brother Paul went into this house with his 2 best friends, and Paul went missing, and then one of his other friends, Jake, had his arm completely like bitten off, and all the kids said that there were monsters in the house and that Paul got eaten by the house and that he's gone forever. I just love the writing in this book so far because I'm immediately gripped by like, what do you mean? Like, what is happening at the house? Like, the horror is written so well. But then I also love the way that this family is already being fleshed out with the way that the loss of her brother has really fucked up their family dynamic. I love how this character talks about how she was her dad's favorite person, his shining star, and then Paul was born and suddenly I was in the center of the universe, just some distant planet orbiting in the coldest reaches of the solar system. And kind of talking about, you know, her dad and how like losing his only son, it's just really awful for their whole family. But like, wow, there's already been a scene that like nearly made me cry. Towards the end of chapter 2, I was nearly in tears. I was like, that is so awful. I'm already feeling very connected to the writing and the characters in this book. I love the way that with the writing, even though it's taking place in 1993, It's almost written in this way where it's like the character has already lived through this and is like reflecting on that period of their life. And I do tend to love horror books like this that are about these like creepy abandoned houses. It almost feels like the house itself is like alive somehow, and like things are happening that shouldn't be possible. That's exactly the type of haunted house horror that I really love. And so I'm loving this so much so far. I mean, again, I don't want to jinx it, but it feels very promising that I'm going to rate this one very highly. So I'm going to continue reading this one on sprints this afternoon, and hopefully I can finish it up because the audiobook is not even too long. I've been listening to this one on audio as well, and I think the audiobook is only like 9 or maybe 10 hours long. It's not too long of an audiobook. It is so many hours later. It is after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I just wrapped up my Patreon reading sprints for the day. I was live for nearly 5 hours again today, and I've finished reading The Place Where They Buried Your Heart by Christina Henry, and holy shit, we have our first 5-star read of the year on our hands. I loved this book so much. I will admit that the ending of this book didn't exactly go in the direction that I was expecting it to, or at least I do think the ending wrapped up in a way that felt a little bit like simple for how like intense of a plot this was. Like I do agree that the ending of this book was a little bit like anticlimactic, but I also know that I have to give this book 5 stars because how obsessive I was reading this today. Like I was so locked in, I was so engaged in this story, and like the amount of tabs that I put into this book, this is actually ridiculous. This has got to be one of my most annotated books that I've had in a while. I ended up putting 3 different colors of tabs into the book because for one of the tabs, the purple ones I put in for any like shocking or like creepy moments with this house that I thought were like so eerie and so weird. And then I put in the blue tabs anytime there was like a sad moment or like any kind of moment about their family and like the relationship dynamics, whether it was like siblings or parents, and just like something that I thought was so beautifully done. And then I also put in a pink tab for any of the moments that I thought were like so sweet that like made me want to cry. There was just something about the way this book was written. Like this is exactly what I love in horror, because not only was the haunted house horror done so well, I love this style of horror where it's like there's a house and there's things happening at the house that you can't explain. It almost feels like the house is breathing. The way that the haunted house horror was written in this book was just so creepy and so well done and exactly my taste in horror. But then it was even more than just the haunted house. There were so many other elements of horror that I really loved. This book does lean a little bit into that like cosmic horror territory. And you know, like we have characters who experience like losses of time. I think that's one of the things that freaks me out the most in a horror book personally, is like, say when you have a character who's like staring at something for a long time and they don't even realize that like hours and hours and hours have passed and they're just like zonked out like a zombie, like staring at something. Like that is so freaking creepy to me. And that is something very specific that I really love in horror. But I also think this has to be 5 stars for me because I loved following this character, Jessie. I loved that she was kind of a messy character at times and like she didn't always make the right decisions. And like sometimes I would really disagree with her, but she honestly just felt so real as a character. And I felt so much for this character when it came to like her relationship with her younger brother and how she really wished that she could have protected him that day when the house ate him. But then also like her complicated relationship with her mom and her dad. And I love that we follow this character over decades of her life. You know, like the story starts when she's, you know, back in 1993 when she's like 13 years old. But I love that this story really quickly goes through all the years and we kind of get to see this character as she's growing up and becoming an adult. And even though I didn't necessarily love like the direction that the book ended up going in at the very end, I still think that the final 2 paragraphs of this book were so eerie and kind of like creepy and unsettling in the way that I do really love. I just think my biggest complaint with the ending of this book is that it felt a little bit too simple for like how high the stakes felt. And so I don't think it was very satisfying the way that the conclusion like resolves itself, I guess, at the end of the book. But I also think I have to give this book 5 stars anyway because of the feeling that it gave me while I was reading today. Like I noticed that the author Philip Fracassi, he's the author of the Autumn Springs Retirement Home book that I'm obsessed with, and he blurbed this and he said, "A cosmic blast of haunted haunted house horror in which Christina Henry explores the complex bonds of families, both the ones we lose and the ones we gain, and how those relationships can be found in the most unexpected of places. It's a story about monsters and murder and loss, but it's also a story about the ferocity of love and the improbable ways it can capture our hearts. And I definitely agree with that. I also really loved the found family aspects of this story. I'm just so delighted to be kicking off Winterween with a 5-star in the very first vlog. And this is my first 5-star of 2026. Like, how amazing and how unexpected, to be honest, because Christina Henry hasn't had a 5-star book for me ever since the book Near the Bone, which was like almost 5 years ago now. So it feels incredibly special to find a new favorite book from this author. And this is exactly why I will always give authors another chance once I've given them 5 stars, because I know that they have the potential to write another favorite for me, even if it takes me years to find another new favorite. Anyway, I would highly recommend The Place Where They Buried Your Heart. And I would love to know your thoughts if you read this one, because I feel like this book actually got really slept on last year. It came out in November, and I really haven't heard of anybody talking about this book. So I'm really glad that I have a new horror book that I can highly recommend. Anyway, I think that just about wraps up day 2 of Winterween. I really want to get started on editing this vlog so I can have it go up on YouTube tomorrow. And I think I finally figured out on my editing software how to edit these videos to be like in 4K, like as HD as possible. But in order for me to do that, it takes way longer for these videos to render than they typically do. So I feel like I really need to stay on top of editing. And to be honest, the rest of the night, I'm probably just gonna spend the night eating some dinner, editing this vlog, and watching more of Supernatural with my mom. So if you want an update about Supernatural, I can definitely do that on the next vlog that you're gonna see from me. The next Winterween vlog after this one should be going up on Tuesday, the 13th. So that is gonna be all from me for the first vlog of Winterween. Thank you so much for watching. You'll have to let me know if you're participating in Winterween. How is it going for you so far? How many books have you read? Have you found any new favorites? If you've read this book, please do let me know your thoughts on it. And thank you so much for watching as always. I will see you very soon with another Winterween vlog. Bye!